Namo manjo ye, Namo zo ye, Namo wo dama ye zo ha. Ye shui dang zu di chong nang la, Jiang zhu ba du da ni gab zu ji, Dang ge chun ye ki be chong nang yi, Ro la ben jie sang ge zhu ba zhu. Che dang zu ge chong nang la, Jiang zhu ba du da ni gab zu ji, Dang ge chun ye ki be chong nang yi, Ro la ben jie sang ge zhu ba zhu. Che dang zu ge chong nang la, Jiang zhu ba du da ni gab zu ji, Dang ge chun ye ki be chong nang yi, Ro la ben jie sang ge zhu ba zhu.北给学习没多长，日晚灵犀你得见把的，上天心都没得不忘也，周云南大心大觉把说，咕噜让那门达拉嘎米呀达呀米。
Please, please adjust your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairocana. Think, all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers, not just once, but numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not even want a small suffering, due to mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and abandonment, they do not experience any happiness but suffering. In our minds, sincerely cultivate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were to have excellent happiness and the causes of excellent happiness that are virtues. May they have excellent happiness and its causes. I will cause them to have excellent happiness and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so. Next week, cultivate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from all sufferings and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. May they be free from all suffering and the causes of suffering. I will cause them to be free from all suffering and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we cultivate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms? I should take the responsibility. Even though I should take the responsibility, I do not have the ability to place them in the state of perfect, complete enlightenment now. Who has such ability? Those perfect, complete Buddhas have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. The self and the aggregates neither exist as inherently one nor as inherently different, thus is empty of inherent existence. To set a good motivation, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this, I will listen to the holy teaching and practice properly in order to benefit sentient beings. That's all. The outline is, if I got angry because someone said unpleasant things to me and that weakens others' faith in me, then it would also be appropriate to get angry at those who say unpleasant things to others. I repeat, the outline is, if I got angry because someone said unpleasant things to me and that weakens others' faith in me, then it would also be appropriate to get angry at those who say unpleasant things to others. Under this outline is the first two lines of verse 62. It says, since sentient beings will be weakened, I shall be angry with those who say unpleasant things. So in relation, under this outline, that if I got angry because someone said unpleasant things to me and that weakens others' faith in me, then it will also be appropriate to get angry at those who say unpleasant things to others. And under this outline is the first two lines of verse 62, and the meaning, and it indicates the objection. And the objection says, although anger at those who hinder my gain is inappropriate, and previously there are many, we have mentioned many reasons to establish that it is inappropriate to get angry at those who hinder my gain. And he says, and he continues to say, if someone were to say unpleasant things to me, since the faith of sentient beings who have faith in me will be weakened, then I shall be angry with those who say unpleasant things to me. And the response to these objections is in the next two lines of verse 62. He says, why are you not likewise angry with those who say unpleasant things to other people?
bias there was toward the cover, toward cover. What direction?
等到啲啲呢個啦，啲佢哋教咯。
toward cover.
He says, if you get angry with those who cause others' virtue to degenerate, then why are you not likewise angry with those who say unpleasant things to other people? Because that too causes the virtue of faith in others to degenerate. So if, so if you get angry with those who cause others' virtue, so previously he says that if someone were to say unpleasant things to me, and then it causes the faith of sentient beings who have faith in me to degenerate, then I should get angry at those who say unpleasant things to me, right? So then, in response to that objection, then he says, then you should get angry at those who cause others' virtue of faith to degenerate as well, because then you should also get angry at those who say unpleasant things to others, because that too causes the virtue of others, the virtues of faith, others' virtues of faith to degenerate as well. So if you want to get angry, then you should get angry at both. So, and the meaning here, the meaning here is trying to indicate is one shouldn't get angry at both. One shouldn't get angry at both. Yeah, both scenario.
다 지나 마데 발라 세나 더 님무지 진지랑 마데 발라 스리바 사들와 내가 되네 내가 도도 니시고와 제나 마데 발라 세나 더 님무지 진지랑 마데 발라 스리고 예스타디 자와데 마데 셴나 라레비 대바 내가 추세나 님무지나 님무지라 라레비 미니 발라 진무스에세 와 이쇼로 진도와 어디만
Next outline is, if you are patient with non-faith in others, then it will be appropriate for you to be patient also with non-faith in oneself due to the conditions of affliction. Under this outline is verse 63. It says, if you are patient with this lack of faith because it is related to others' non-faith, then why are you not patient with unpleasant words since they are related to the arisal of afflictions?
다디기다 가디 생기 희나 마데번에 미유 강사 희나 라레 와세 다디 이제의 시기가 간다 강사 희나 대바다 마데바소 가리나 미유 강사 희 되니라 다 쭌다 윤디 요메서 뜻제의 강사 희나 라레 바리스 도와 희나 라레 바선다 희나 미니바 제바다 도와 강사 희나 희나 미니바 제바다 다 희나 대바 메바다 다 쭌먼도와 스위트부 와스 세나와 쭌먼도와세나 원나 라니라 마니바 마이 컨사시오라 데라 쳔 쭌메세 스리고레 데라 차 간다 스웨마도 카리어를 지바로 와스 세두로 와스 바로보데 이제 공도 지바레 라니라 마니바 마게데 하나 녀모비 희와도도네 녀모비 희와도네 대왕데 다 마니바 지바레 마도 신라라리데 마도 신라라리 지바레스 와 신라라리 지바레스 와 텐디소다 데 간다 세르 니가라 세르고 무스와 니가라 세르고 지바레 초지고 문도 니가라 세바 세르고 지수네 무스와 지수레 비진다 신 간다 코로나 하나페 치미네 밤마게 데나 코로나 라와메바 신 영어하게 데 간다 지투보 마레 와 지투보 마데 니가라 세르고 무스와 신라라리 데스 어디레자.
So the meaning of this verse is, if without anger you are patient with the utterance of unpleasant things to other people and the lack of faith in others, because the objects of observations, the non-faith in other sentient beings is related to other people, then why in mind are you not patient with unpleasant words said to yourself? It follows that patience is appropriate since they are related to the arisal of afflictions of others. So first it talks about, if you're not angry, if you're not, without getting angry, then you are being patient with the utterance of unpleasant things said to other people and causes a lack of faith in others. So because the reason that you say here is because the objects of observation, which is the non-faith in other sentient beings, is related to other people. So you say that because the objects of observations is related to other people, or it depends on other people. So here, related to other people has the meaning of it depends on other people. So then why are you not patient with unpleasant words said to yourself? Because it follows that because they are related to the arisal of afflictions of others. So if you're things to others, and that causes lack of faith in others, then why are you not patient with unpleasant words said to yourself, or rude words said to the harsh speech said to yourself, since they are related to arisal of afflictions of others? So here, since they are related to the arisal of afflictions of others, here the related also can be translated as depend. So since they are dependent on the arisal of afflictions of others. So this patient unpleasant words said to yourself, the person who said unpleasant words to you is under the control of afflictions as well. So this person who said unpleasant words to you also depends on the afflictions. So they are under the control of afflictions, right? So another way of saying this is they depend on the arisal of afflictions. So therefore, why are you not patient with them?
강사 이해랑 가서 뒤에 신지 이해랑 마디보다 미유 강사 이해랑 그도와 다 들로 보다 강사 이해랑 대바다 마디바 대바 제바다 마디바 제바데 가르라라래 그 미유 강사 이해 미유 강사 요로와 강사 이해 되니라 쩨다 윤디 요메서라 라리 그와 대 쩨다 윤디 쩨요나 마디바다 윤디나 대발리고와 쩨다 윤디 요메서 dinti jina rale ba suza de dinti jina rale ba suza de tela da chocha pingu mundu nyani de kanza jina mani ba jeba ina de deba ma tela che tugu ma res mo jwa ro seri gures da de wol de da su ro ya ro de ji so des ta kanza mi yu kanza yin la sa de ge bon de dire da je deba ina da ma deba ina da de mi yu kanza ye de la jun da yin de yo me so ji de go ne de ji jina rale ba res ro 윤디는 되라 대바다 윤디미 쥐여나 되라 마디바라서 된디기 송상 되지나라래 봐서다 되다되라 초나 행문도 산이 되 간자게라 지문에 봐 제바이나 되 대바 뭐되라 되 세제 말아 세제 조금 말했어 조금 말해서 와 조금 말했어 나도 원래 이 대다들 하나 문에 봐 지기 되라 조시서로 어쨌든 좋아해보다 원래 대 간자게데 지나 안 되고 그래서 거랑에 뭐도 이 쥐니 뭐이나 라래는 누구세라고 그러와 어다디니까 지송을 누구스 송바래도 내 송바스다다 간다 줘야 문도 쓰리고 누구세라고 그러와 내가라 뭐들이.
So in the commentary it says, without anger, you are patient with the utterance of unpleasant things said to others, and that causes lack of faith in others, because the objects of observation depends on others. Because it depends on others. So the meaning is, so if you are patient with the utterance of unpleasant things said to others, and that causes lack of faith in others, because the reason that you state is because it depends on others. So it depends on others in the commentary is translated as it is related to other people, right? So another translation for this is it can also be translated as it depends on others. So what does it depends on is when you say uttering things, unpleasant things to other people and causes lack of faith in others, so that lack of faith also depends on others. So that lack of faith is also dependent, is also other powered. So other powered or dependent means that this lack of faith or having faith is also depends on others, means that lack of faith depends on the faults of the person, and having faith depends on the qualities of the person. So if the reason, if you state that the reason that if you are okay with the utterance of other, so if you are patient with the utterance of unpleasant things said to others, and that causes lack of faith in others, so with the reason that because it depends on others, then with the same reason, the mind, you should be patient with unpleasant words said to yourself as well, because the person who said unpleasant things to you, they are also dependent. So they are also other power. So other power or dependent means that it depends on the arisal of afflictions of others. They are under the control of arisal, under the control of afflictions. So next outline is the reason it is inappropriate to get angry at harms done to the holy images and so forth. And under this outline is verse 64. It says, should others talk frivolously about or even destroy holy images, reliquaries, and the sacred Dharma, my hatred is inappropriate, for the Buddhas and so forth can never be harmed. So in relation to this verse, then there is an opinion. So anger at harm to oneself is inappropriate, but there is no misdeed in getting angry at harm to the three jewels. And then in response to this opinion, it says, should others verbally talk frivolously about, criticize, or even physically destroy holy images of the Buddhas, reliquaries of great enlightenment and so forth. So reliquaries is another words for stupa. So there are different types of stupas. And one of the stupa is called the stupa of great enlightenment and so forth. And the sacred dharma, such as volumes of text. And my hatred is inappropriate for the three jewels, the Buddhas and so forth, can never be, for the three jewels, the Buddhas and so forth can never be harmed. So even if my hatred is inappropriate because the three jewels, the Buddhas and so forth can never be harmed, and I should be merciful since the harmers are objects of compassion. So, and those who harm, or those who causes harm to those holy objects such as statues, tags and so forth. So it will not cause any harm to the three jewels other than oneself, other than the harmers themselves accumulating negative karma. So, and due to these harms done to the three jewels, and those three jewels will not have any mental unhappiness, and there will be no mental unhappiness, and that and the three jewels will not have anger towards those persons or towards those harmers as well, because these harmers are objects of compassion. So it means that anger will not arise from the conditions of a painful mind due to mental unhappiness with respect to the three jewels. So three jewels can never be harmed, and then those three jewels will not. And those three jewels will not have any mental unhappiness that leads to anger at those harmers, because those harmers for those three jewels are the objects of compassion. Next outline is, it is appropriate to be patient with harms to one's friends. And with under this outline is verse 65. It says, I should counteract anger towards those who harm my spiritual masters, relatives, and so forth, and friends, by saying, as in the manner shown before, that they arise from conditions. Ngagi.
Ngamala, Jiwa Ngamala, Koro Ni, He Pama Kalina, Koran, some normal lady, and David Nishi, so that and the Koran never to see Windu, lay on the two Serendu, son, do some Tani, toward the Gab is Burwa, toward the Gab is it. We don't need to book the essay, that is, deal with that. That Kanda, the King never Cheva, who is Toma in another, Junior Teva in another, Kanish Cheva in another, that Kanda, Dylan Tua Muribi Jessica, Koran, lay to the Kujan. 내가 보는 still woman 얘기와 레고는 된 제부터 하더라. 내가 도지 이왕에 그래서 되게 성공하는 때 좋아하는 가고 있어. 뭐와 다 좋은 거 있어. 어디 된다.
So the meaning of this verse is, anger is inappropriate when I see others harming my spiritual masters who teach me the Dharma, the objects of adoptions and abandonment. Is inappropriate when I see others, when you directly see others, or when you indirectly hear from others that harm done to my spiritual masters who teach me the Dharma, the relative of my time. So relative of my time can also be understood as those who have the same bloodline, such as my parents, such as my relatives. So relative of my time, and so forth, and friends. So whoever they are, then when I directly see, or when I directly or indirectly hear about harms done to them, then I should counteract anger by seeing, as in the manner shown before, that they, incited by past inappropriate actions committed by my relatives and so forth, arise from conditions of past karma. So I should counteract anger, or I should stop anger by thinking about that they experience this due to past inappropriate actions committed by my relatives and so forth, and these arise from the conditions of past karma. Next outline is, it is inappropriate to get angry only at those with mind. Under this outline is verse 66. It says, if embodied creatures are harmed by both those with mind and those without mind, why single out and begrudge only those with mind? Therefore, I should be patient with them.
nidan zahi ije kandijina rwa nin zahi laso kandijina ta sinye chipe jala sobi senda denge kanza tape kanda nanju kandi dengiji kanza de pa nidana pa shena chiwa tam dendiji pe subugu nanju kandiji tenne kwa dendiji jachi chumba ina rwa jachi chumba ina dendiji jala soba dige kanda senyo keji jata rwa senyo keji jata pe ta ligi nanju laso ba kandiji tenne chumba ina ta dedang jachi yachi na 다 대라서비 다 세대바 다 도다 유바 서자라서 바로 도다 유바 서자라서 대다 감각이 간다 내 간다 내가 집에 있나서 좋아 내가 집에 있나 내가 집에 있나 다 건데 세영게 강자대 파미 따는 신나 차보다 누구 난주 관리 때나 당뭐 돈이 신나 차보다 여가 있나야 된다 수술은 내가 징게 되라 다 채다 유바라서 봐디 네가 손에 네가 never check 지수를 봤어. 그러나 never 지우지 네가 never 손에 네가 손에 너다 유발라서 받아 세세지 강자 네가 손에 내가 제하지 못도 지랑이 never check 도 지너 유발을 좋아해 그러나 강자 지가 네가 손에 내가 제 지빠지냐래 그러나 never check 라고도 그러나 된 저선다 다 세메 발라 세메 도 유발을 시에서 다 상담하다 강자 지가 못해요. 딱 도다 유발을 되다 너와 벤도 우선 나와 좋아가야 좋아 세모 좋아리는 어 그도다 유발을 해서 대단 너와 충분히 상담에 좋아도 가고 이제까지 거기에 강자들아 그런 게 정하는 게 모두 도다 유발을 지발이 그러는 거네 근데 강자들의 현안다 그 차고 너도 네 통우리 현안 차고 돼야 돼 그런 게 신경하게 네 땡기게 공조 내용들에 나와서 공조 내용들마다 가서 과하게 나중 가로 뛰는 마다나 간다 내가 진행해 내는 그러나 무슨 그도다 유바다 지발해서 간다
요몽기 왕기래
요몽 그 내가 지지 풀어거든 내용들에 나와서 가서 그런 도다 유바나시 그러니 내가 지바 그러니 지바지잖아요 좋아 그래서 내가 지바지잖아 도다 유바나시 해서 그래서 내가 제 공조 사고자 그런 무슨 좋아 맞아 도다 유발 공조사는 그거 요 말아 도다 유발 공조사바나 벤도게 요 말했어 근데 간살이 공조사는 벤도게 뭐 도다 유발은 지발해서 우리 지발 네가 손에 내가 지금도 대한다 풍도고 내가 진게데 때 간사 되지 누구들이 봤어 시원 좋아 나 공조사는 들었어 그래서 가더라 공조 빈지전은 들었지 그래서 뭐와 뭐 들었지 그래서 근데 소가 나 간다 되니까 나 간다 좋아 우리 봐 좋아 kenji je moruba da kenji sebashi che tubashi te gure se tubashi gure se da kan de kundo cheba ina kanza de seyeji kanza de punda wode da nyomu de shi kundo nyomu de da dela kenji che 무슨 da dela kenji che ka de jaw da da nyomu se wadela wazo ka de jaw re ma da dela nyembo de de ja songo da da dela ja ma zin jigo dela dobo zawani che ayo da nyomu dela 조보 전시해야ます이 조보는 제 조보도 디조리 디비 조보래 맞아 디비 조보냐도 만번도 사드나 데 내가 두아지 마도 야자 안지 말스 좋아 내가 제가 그거다 두아지 안지 마도 야지 그랬어 어 나중에 가서 지대게 답에는 디조 안에 시나 만도 아슬라 그러와 아마스 라젤 디비 조보 미 두자나도 만도 세라 다 디조스 좋아 디만 만도 세 지도 준세요 좋아 맞은 지대나 가서 디비 줘봐다 왜 저기 디조 풀어보다 다 너무 들어와 디조 풀어보다 왜 이게 못 찾아 봐
So the meaning of this verse is, if embodied creatures such as my relatives are alike in being harmed by both those with mind, such as enemies, and those without mind, such as weapons, why only observe and single out those with mind, begrudge them, and be aggressive towards them? It is inappropriate, therefore, through patience with harm to my relatives, I shall destroy anger. So this verse talks about how one should stop anger through the patience of disregarding harm or being indifferent to harm. So if embodied creatures such as my relatives, they are alike in being harmed by both. So we need to analyze the situations. If my relatives are being harmed, so they are being harmed by both those with mind, such as the enemies, and those without mind, such as weapons, stone, and stick, and so forth. So why do you only observe and single out those with mind, the enemies with mind, and then get angry at them? So it is inappropriate. So when we talk about so when we talk about those enemies, so when we talk about enemies is not only about enemies that when you look at, then you feel frightful, then you feel fearful. It's not about when they show you some facial expressions, then you feel fearful as well. And those are not the only enemies. And then when you talk about enemies, then enemies can be with mind and then without mind. Then and even without minds that harms you as well, the direct harmer, weapons, stone, sticks, and so forth. So why do you only angry at those enemies with mind and not those enemies without mind? So then we have to think. Analyze again. When harms happen, it happens based on the collections of these two. The enemies with mind uses those without mind, such as weapon. Then the harm happens. So then you should think that then you get angry at the enemies with mind because because they harm me, because I shouldn't get angry at those without mind, such as weapons, because they have no freedom and they are being used by those enemies. So I should get angry at the enemies who use those weapons. Then you should also analyze that does these enemies have freedom, or have the freedom to harm you or not? Then have the freedom to harm you or not, then you will when you analyze, then you will come to a point that these persons are actually other power as well. They depends on others' conditions, and that conditions is afflictions. They are under the control of afflictions as well. So under the control of afflictions, those enemies with mind have no choice but to harm you. So if we think about it, then it's inappropriate to get angry even at those with mind, such as those enemies, such as those persons as well. And then when you think about these afflictions that controls the enemies to harm you, then that is the ultimate harmers. So afflictions is the ultimate harmers, not the persons who are the enemies being controlled by those afflictions. So if you want to get angry, then you should get angry at the ultimate enemy, which is afflictions, not the person who are controlled by them. So therefore, it is inappropriate to get angry at the enemies, and it is not appropriate. It is inappropriate to retaliate the enemies, and it is appropriate for me to be patient with those enemies as well. So it's very important to identify the actual enemy or the ultimate enemy. So and apply antidotes to counteract them. And one shouldn't befriend with these enemies, which is afflictions, because if you were to befriend them, then and they are negative friend. So if you were to befriend them and they are negative friend, and they will only lead you to create more negativities. So even in our conventional world, our parents also give us advice that you shouldn't mix with those bad friends and so forth, right? So in this context, when we talk about bad friends or negative friends, and the ultimate one is affliction, so we shouldn't befriend these negative friend afflictions.
That's a new one. How will anybody to a religion says, that you got to a religion? Not to a religion, 라라 몸비 네바시 라라 모디 최주나 데라 쯤에 관계자스 쯤에 찌데 관심 인세 데 쇼로가 진도와 어디마데는 디시리스.
Next outline is the reason it is inappropriate to get angry. Under this outline is verse 67. It says, should one person do harm out of confusion and another is confused and gets angry, then who would be without fault and who would be at fault?
어디게 된다 되는도 강사 라라기와 네바 신기시 다 네바 신기시 강사 가시는 거와 네바 신기시 다 강사 라라 이게라 네바 시바라 다 강다 이게라 네바 시바라 지비데 정도 용기 받이 마시바 몸바 세들와 강사 라라 간단 지불라 라라 몸바 시는 도도 강사 라리기다 강사 라라 다 렌리라 몸도 와기 다 렌리라 몸바 계시 렌리라 몸바 다 렌리라 몸소와데 다 강다 네바 신기시 강사 라라게 또 네바 시는 레버데 장게 용기 바 마시바 몸바 와 장게 용기 바데 마시바 렌리라 몸 세들와 장 제부데 장게 용기 바 마시바 렌리라 몸비 또 네자게 예트서라 내 인제 소 제바다 다 노초 그마 제바다 자바 제바다 동대라서 바 천라서 바 디슈바다 다 마부 지고로와 어데도 마부 제바데 데 간다 데레 수수비 렌리라 몸바 또 두스 제바데스 와 제부데 장게 용기 바다 마시바 다 렌리라 몸바 두스 제바데 예시 되는 니레도와 몸바 다 지라 가르스나 다 간사라라는 초이 님이라 모아스 데 가시 초이 님이라 모아 예스로와 다 초이 님이 간사 다 대나시 다 네바시에 간사 말라라니 이제나 초빈 제부데 데 농기비 추게 마시바 로아 리비 농기비 추게 마시바 모데 데 네시라 초바지나 녀레데 다 간다 수술라 임바데 마시바 초이 님이라 모데 데로와 초이 님이라 모바치네 되게나 간다 두스냐 바치 제바리스 내 데리수다 되니까 다 간다 찌메바 말이 되니냐 지로와 찌다 찌비토네 다 바로 그 간다 몸비와 찌기 렌데라 몸비와 그래서 내가 제발 찌는 간다 님이라 모디 와 간다 기디기 님이라 좀 먹게 레사오디 님이라고 가리 요면 내 님이 가리 요면 대 마시바 와 대 마시바 대라 모디 다 간다 내가 제발 내가 징계 되니까 죄다 제비토네 다 간다 네가 죄다 메시보다 렌데라 몸비와 내가 제와다 초이 님이 마시고 다 내가 제가 니 도도 되니 와 초이 님이 마시고 내가 제가 지나 렌데라 몸비와 내가 제가 니 간다 되니까 죄다 제비 때 간다 내가 제가 와 내가 제가 쓴다 네가 징계를 손바 쓴다 때라 네제 내도 다 초리 뭐 무슨 때라 초리 뭐 초머리 비지 제가 가서나 거라니 찌레레라 뭐 마시바 원데 지 초이 님이라 뭐 메시바 대원도 되듯이 그러와 니가 니지 제도상 다 간다 되니를 다 간다 닌지 유라 상호단이 때 간다 맞아 닌지의 세반이네 다 저거 슈침벌리 그러와 근데 니남도 네 빠지어도 야마도 되고 있다 그러와 닌지야 보시 지와이나 세바다 님도 되고 세바야 보시 요와이나 닌지의 님도 좋아하듯이 다 되니까 미시리 도와 차리 와 어디 소나 다 간다 다 추아 차리 그 무슨 다 무슨 지지 성공 그래서 그러와 지지 성공한 추아 머리 비지 제대로 성공한 거죠
So this verse talks about two types of person, and the first one is, it says the reason why anger is inappropriate is as follows. So should one person, so this is the first type of person. So should one person do harm, such as killing out of confusion regarding karma and its results? So these first types of person or first person and create negativities such as killing, such as robbing, such as stealing, and so forth, out of confusion about karma and its results. First person is confused. Is confused, not knowing that one has to experience the results of one's karma. So confusion regarding karma and its results. So it means that the person create those negativities out of confusion, not knowing that oneself has to experience the results of those karma. And another is confused about the drawbacks of anger and gets angry. So another person is confused about the drawbacks of anger and is confused about virtue and non-virtue as well. And then that person, the second person, gets angry, not knowing the drawbacks of anger. Then and also not knowing that oneself has to experience the results of angry as well, what results of getting angry. So yeah, so there are two types of persons here, and so these two. So who will be without faults and who will be at fault? And since both are similar in having faults, getting angry in response to harm is inappropriate. So so both of them, whether the first person is the first person at fault or the second person at fault or both of them without fault. So then it says, since both are similar in having fault, so both of them have fault, and getting angry in response to harm is inappropriate. And so it is inappropriate to get angry, and instead one should think about them or perceive them as objects of compassion. And compassion and patience are strongly related, are strongly connected. So when you think about compassions, and then the patience will arise. And when you think about patience, or when you cultivate patience, and then compassions will arise. So these two, compassion and patience, they are greatly related, and they are kind of like indivisible. So because when one arises, and another, it will causes another one to arise as well. So therefore, it is inappropriate to get angry. One should think about the reason why one should not get angry.
但我跟老几大把的学的我说，没些把东岸去过是，可是继续在哇，没些把东岸去过是，那得了了，没些把东岸去过的，我说你去介绍的，你把啥全部有的话，没些把的来的了，我们没些不用给他，你把啥全部啥是吧？哦，这空中给你们嘛些吧，你把的空中给你们嘛些吧，没些把电话给，他刚才你把啥全部啥是吧？你把啥全部吧？我等最终上。 他讲的，说，朗读经念的说了，马西等到多多些了，朗读经念了，没些不忘记，那你把查清我们不上了，朗读经念了，没些不忘记，你把查清我们上了，我说，老兄结果呢，大把老兄结果是这点的，我说，起笔你把这样子，起把的你把啥玩意呢？你把切过去呢，干的你把的样把就说出来是，你把这样，起笔你把这样子，另一个你把样就是。 另外个地方的养不起嘛，对不对呢？看到这个问题呢，下到两个前头新马的是，前马现在的养家问题的地方的结果产生了的是，是吧？我开发的和地方全部啥玩意呢呀？这个下把接上了，这个年长嘛还可能，你讲的下到这个了，那你把全部听过来是，你听下来，到朗读今年也会去写，我也说老乡亲，那对了我了听的，我对了的，小毛多少？
Yeah. So therefore, we also mentioned before that one of the door to transgressions is not knowing, right? So here there are two persons. The first person is confusions, which is not knowing the cause and effect, and the second one is confusion that is not knowing the drawbacks of anger. So in brief, it means that so it means that not knowing the objects of adoptions and abandonment, one will accumulate negativities. And we also mentioned that we always need to study. We also need to learn. So because one of the verse it says that for the wise, even heavy negativities will become light, and for a dull or for a childish one, even light negativities will become heavy. So for those learned ones or for the wise, then even if they created heavy negativities, then they can make it lighter. It means that they can purify them. They know the proper way to purify them through understanding the drawbacks of these negativities. And for a dull or for a childish one, so even though they created small negativities or light negativities, and because of not knowing the drawbacks of those negativities, and because of not knowing the proper way to purify them, and even a light negativities become heavy.
어디 오늘까지 선바 들어와. 다른 게 내가 사바 들어와. 나는 뭔가 선바데. 나는 내가 선바데. 강이 신도 내지 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 지시 시스. 단지를 하려나 다게들 지도 그래서 이 저거 진도와 이들은 디슈리스.
Next outline is contemplating it as one's fault. Contemplating it as one's own fault. And under this outline is verse 68. It says, "Why did I previously commit those actions, because of which others now cause harm? If all are related to my actions, why should I begrudge them?"
다 간다 소리도와 다 간다 레강이 신다라 와 레강이다 신다라 하나 내버치 봐. 와 다 간다 내버치 봐데 유지 상당하게 와 내가 강기 힘 바로 그 랑기 쇼라 안다 리치 대바다 나부 치주고 마와라서 되게 내버치비 레게 봐 로라 레게 봐 간다 레게데 땡년치 수수게 내데 사사했어. 와 레게 봐서 수수게 사사wasn가 우리 되는 거 같은지 제벌 거 같은지 사사했어. 그들이서 제벌때 따라하는 내가 좋아 단지 따라하는 내가 좋아 제벌 등이 좋아 내가 좋아 간가데 그런게 레게 봐 들라라리네 좋아해 사한테 되게 바로 본들라 바로 그 간지 간다 내가 지금 말해 랑기 레게 봐 대왕의 중사 되게 상담에 좋아요 말이고와 지디 시든 바시스다 가르치는 좋아 제스로와 좋아요 말이스 되게 랑기 레게가 상담에 스타 된다 도도데 이 랑기 레게가 상담에 되잖아 랑기 레게가 상담에.
So why did I previously commit those actions, because of which others now cause harm? If all harms that occur to me needlessly arise through being related to my bad actions, why should I begrudge the other party? So the harms that I am experiencing right now are caused by my past negative actions of beating others, saying harsh words to them, or doing anything that harm others. So whatever that I'm experiencing, such as harm by others, is caused by my past own negative actions. So why should I get angry at them? So since whatever happens to me is caused by my own negative actions, so why should I get angry at others? So here one should stop anger by thinking about cause and effect.
어디 올라간다지 그다음에 뒤에 공부를 해. 사실 되나시나 랑기 내가 선바 뒤에 공부를 해. 뒤에 공부는 제가 도도 들어와. 대단 통이 진행장 단지 편시 상세스 이제와 대다 다기니 그래서 나타나 진짜 자세. 어디에 저러고 진도 들만 디디슈인스.
Under the same outline, contemplating it as my own fault. Then another verse is verse 69. It says, "Having seen thus, no matter what, I should strive in this way for what is meritorious, that all will have loving thoughts towards each other."
다디게 들어 오더라도 다 내봐다 누가 탕지 다 내려 좋아 지다 내려 좋아 대단 통이 와 내려 좋아 스스로 보게 돈이 찌찌내장 다 신체 탕지 편지 찌찌 샤미스스 좋아 나시나 우사 된디게 상담하고 다디 견다 노도데 신체 편지 장주의 세계의 줄 다 내가 해야 돼. 봐. 편지 신체 편지 다 장주의 세계 줄 장주 세계 다 집에서 봐. 내가 해야 돼. 준비해야 돼. 이래 된다 되시고 와. 내가 타지 간다랑 레레 중하다 대단 돈이 진행자 신지 탄지 편지 찌了찌什么意思不편지 찌了찌와 탄지 편지 상세스 로군도와 자와들我到底看到长久的设计实际当中偏执찌了但长久的设计就是你要是我看一定job有去那上这个吧上当的对吧长久设计就对你讲有上偏执찌了长久设计去那熊是这个上当的다 민제라서 세나 드게 되게 장주고 세지하라 배 민제라서 봐 샴발라서 세바 드게 세지게 그래서 휴 첨부 따바는 장주 세 제도로 봐 봐. 장주 세지하라 내가 첨부의 민제 들으면 세지게 공부 제고 봐. 그래서 드게 공부 맞지 봐이나 장주 세 제도로 봐. 오다 단다 도도 이 너무 단다데 완다 핀지 찌기지라 chanjubi se za chenpo de di jie na sambi de nige sang de de jie la bezin jia de shi bezin duya de shi wa da jia de nige de chamba la pa se di de se no sa se la pa da se di de ko ba jia de shi wa ko ba zo ba jia.
So the meaning of these verses, having seen or thought about having sinned or having thought thus, all harms and sufferings arise from karma. No matter what, I should strive in this way for what is meritorious, such as compassion, thinking if only there will be a time when all sentient beings have loving thoughts towards each other, I shall make it so. And here he says that one should if only there will be a time when all sentient beings have loving thoughts towards each other, right? So loving thoughts, compassion, and also bodhicitta. So if only there will be a time when all sentient beings have loving thoughts, compassions, and bodhicitta towards each other, and then when will such a time come? And then I shall make it come quickly. Then so then I should strive in this way for what is meritorious, such as compassion. So I should intently cultivate or familiarize myself with loving kindness and compassions. And through these, I accumulate merits, and through which the bodhicitta will arise. So the bodhicitta will arise in all sentient beings and have bodhicitta towards each other. So I shall make it so.
어디 올 때는 다 올마 시야래 다도 기와 민영이 되는 데가 되려와 다 기와 민영이 되는 데가 되라 빼는 친지 주비 매세 친지 시도 손에는 자서 강나 친지바 되는 충분도와 리스 대신 강나 생차는 계단 매는 친지바 세나 시바 도바이 되는 대유면라 도스 어디 쇼가 니도와 좀 디시니스.
Next outline is striving for the sake of not degenerating my virtue. Under this outline, there are two verses, verse 70 and 71. They say, for example, if a fire in one house has moved into another house, it is right to remove and get rid of straw and such things that the fire will spread to. Likewise, when my mind is attached to something and the fire of hatred spreads, I should immediately get rid of it for fear of my merit being burned.
자다 소마라 자다 신라서 말와 근데 딱 한발 소소가 너지 요지로와 그래서 자다 신라서 버저 그다 소소 너무 비지지하게 다 요지로와 나도 속에 매슈 친구 반에 뜻치기 주는 너지 뭐보지로와 나도 저 참아 다 신으서제 다 매침불레오리 나가서 가르 파유고스는 답에 너지 자다 신라서 버저 소소가 요지 코이 요지하고 싶어야 되기나 다도 솔라 괜찮아 다 자다 신라서 버저라 괜찮지 파 보니 다들 도와도 주세 가르스나 다 친구는 잘하신다 내 자치모 뭐보여와 다도 수 치료하게 돈이 다 자다 신라서 버저라 괜찮아 돈이 주소파 유아리 주소 유아이나 메디아 마마체 유로와 내 친구 말이야 솔라 괜찮지 보이나 요 말하면 돼 참도 치료로와 참도 치료로와 어떻게 솔라 괜찮지 파 괜찮지 파 돈이 유해서 유해서 뭐 빼리 들어와
For example, if a fire that is burning one house has moved into another house and will burn up the house along with its valuables by spreading to straw, wood, and such things, that is right to remove and get rid of the straw and such things for the sake of protecting the house along with its valuables. So we have possessions such as wood, grass, a straw, and other valuable things and other resources as well. So in the house, that we have so many things. So, however, if a house is on fire, then we should get rid of those things that fires can easily spread to, such as straw, wood, and so forth. So at this point, at that time, then we should discard our attachment towards those necessities, such as wood, straw, and so forth. So if we do not and get rid of them, so otherwise, if we do not get rid of our attachment or adherence towards those straw, wood, and so forth, then when the fire can easily spread to those things, straw, wood, and so forth, and then it will burn out the whole house together with with other valuable things and resources. Therefore, it is right to remove those straw and such things and necessities for the sake of protecting the house. So therefore, it is inappropriate for us to attach to those wood, straw, and so forth. So when our house is on fire, so when one's house is on fire, then we shouldn't attach to to this wood, grass, and so forth. Similarly, it is inappropriate for us to attach to friends and relatives as well, because if we were to attach to them, through this attachment towards friends, relatives, and so forth, anger will arise. And through the arisal of anger, it destroys our roots of virtue, whether it destroys our hundreds eons of virtue or the thousands eons of virtue that I have accumulated. So through the arising of anger, it can destroy these roots of virtue. Therefore, we should think about the drawbacks of getting angry, drawbacks of anger. And so through discarding or through eliminating attachment towards our friends and relatives, then we abandon anger. So if we do not abandon this attachment towards friends and relatives, and then when we see harms done to them, then we will have this mental unhappiness, and due to mental unhappiness, anger will arise. And so we also can think about the cause and effect of the cause and effect. So the cause that the person, such as my friends and my relatives, is experiencing the result due to their past negative actions. So through thinking in this way, then it also reduces or eliminates our attachment to them. And through abandoning attachment towards them, then mental unhappiness will not arise. And without the arisal of mental unhappiness, anger cannot arise. So, and when anger does not arise, then it will not create any obstacle or hindrance to our roots of virtue. So therefore, we also have to think about cause and effect, and we also have to abandon attachment towards our friends and relatives in order to not generate anger towards the harmers. So it would be very difficult for us to immediately abandon attachment towards them, immediately not to get angry at harmers and so forth. So, however, we also have to think about the reasons, familiarize ourselves with the reasons and so forth. Otherwise, then we will not be able to immediately stop angers and so forth. And previously, we also mentioned that in order to stop or oppress attachment, then we think about ugliness, right? So ugliness is also one of the antidote towards to attachment. And however, this ugliness can only suppress the attachment. It cannot get rid of or eliminate attachment. So therefore, and this ugliness, contemplating ugliness suppresses attachment. Is like, and when a person feels very sleepy, then if you pour cold water onto him, then the person immediately wake up, right? Immediately feel perky. So, however, after a while, the person will still feel very happy, still feel very sleepy, right? Because you have not solved the root of the problem, the root of that sleepiness. So therefore, in order to get rid of this anger, that ultimate antidote is the ultimate antidote is still the emptiness of inherent existence that get rid of the root of these afflictions, which is self-grasping. So even though this example talks about straw, wood, and so forth, and this example seems like is applicable to those who lives in the village, and however, we should also understand whatever is related or of similar type with those straw wood and so forth, such as our beautiful clothes, beautiful, a very nice bed, mattress, and so forth that fires can easily spread to. If in case if fires, if one's house is on fire, then one should get rid of them as well, and in order to secure the house. Next outline is counteracting the cause of hell through willingly accepting small suffering. Under this outline, then there is an opinion. In our commentary, it says, if I'm separated from my friends and relatives, then I will experience suffering. And in relation to this opinion is verse 72. It says, is it not excellent if a man condemned to death is released after having his hand cut off? Is it not excellent if I'm spared from hell by way of human suffering? So the first two lines, is it not excellent if a man condemned to death is released after having his hand cut off, is under, it indicates the analogy. So is it not, in our commentary, in response to the opinion mentioned just now, it says, is it not excellent if a man condemned to death is released after his hand cut off? So suppose a person created a negative actions, which is sentenced to death. So this person is sentenced to death because of created heavy negativities, or create or break the country rules that the person was sentenced to death. So if this person who was sentenced to death, then instead of so if this person who is sentenced to death then is released after his hand cut off, so instead of going through the punishments of being killed or being killed, then he only go through a comparatively smaller punishment, which is having his hand cut off. And wouldn't this person be happy?
샤도지리 마 다르야 예 양체들라 그래서 뭔고 충주지 나니 나서 충주지 다니 이제 등에 차치 뭐 요한테 다르야 근데 지마이나 그래서 또 근데 뭐 등에 뭐 충주지 나나 되는데 가와 고가 다시 스스로와 다 고치서로 가 고가시 다 지나 동아 디바 차치 뭐 다야 샤도지리 두지 다 단단 니가들라 맞아 단단 상황 땅어디 디리 단단 디리 상황 땅어디 맞아 안보 가서 니가들라 가서 콘로라 받자 콘로라 잡아 니가서 가서 동아 첨부 파 자원이 매바서야 동아 추주도 당당하고 그랬어야 콘로도 계시 콘로도 간이 위해서는 먼저 콘로 매지 휴 첨부돼 말에 빙고라 먼저 이 문제와 바로 변내 빠지는 이 문제와 중세 문제와 차고는 이랑사 이 문제와 중세 차별가라 그 당도에 두 가지 보여서 이 문제와 중세 가라 배들라배 수도 당해하고 있지네 디라 당해하고 있지네 다 가를 배 사천보다 까토에서 이 문제와 휴 첨부도 내봐야 대원 군로 사천보다 되고 있어 근데 군로 사천보 대원가 다 동안 일단 나이 동안 사람 zelame ba tindi nyong ya de mayu ngela da ma zu khung da 바로 ne ba che wala sa tindi si su da ne ba khandi che ba ina da de la su su gu yi ma de wa chembo yo be kala da de kala ma so da thani che ba ya bu ku ye se da de de chu ju ba de chung wa thang da le da de chung wa thang da le da chembo de da nyong mo ba so tu yo wa chembo de 소투고 다 네가서 와서 또 구로라자 구로 되라는 자 와. 어다데 다 구로 매지 휴청보데 내 차와이나 다 까바자 똥나서 비다 계산 좀 뭐라 좀 쓰고라 어다데 까바자 똥나서 비둥에 등에 대 만주야 그러와 계산데 마주야 이체도 다 등에 추주지 타들이네 그래서 지가 다데 계정 해서 어디래 다가서 빌 마셔오데 내 추주지도 마 신나라 내 추주지 바르데 라사마 세리 들 깔릴 마다바 내 추주지 바고들 강에 소소게 다 강바 소소 강바 제고나 강바 ጭጫ나 나라 수 강바 깔리 카우드나 내 깔릴 만지만 도네 메르세 해서 다 깔리 카우로 디스 카우로 공바 정말 내십배 다 추지 제가 로고드나 근데 내 추주지 누나 라사 신나라 추지 제가 누나 깔리 될 만지바 메르세 두바이나 앞에 신나 강가 마치야 네 깔리디기 신나 강가 마치야 다 간다 이거 제투였어 뭐라 다 간다 등에 주주지 당lên 다 전부데 다 도도야지 두 스페이션은 이거 다 간다 와
So this outline is talks about counteracting the cause of hell through willingly accepting small suffering, right? So in response to in response to their opinion, if I'm separated from my friends and relatives, then I will experience suffering. Then in response to this, then he says, is it not, then with the analogy of a person who is sentenced to death is released after his hands cut off, then is excellent and is something worth happy about, right, or joyful about. Then likewise, is it not excellent if I'm spared the sufferings of hell by way of merely human suffering, hunger and thirst? It is appropriate to avert great suffering by willingly accepting small ones. And so when we talk about if one were to create heavy negativities or great negativities, then one have to experience the suffering such as the sufferings of in hell and so forth, right? So before these negativities ripens, then we should purify it through compassion, and then we only experience the results, like experience the negative results, like a ball bouncing back, then it's in a very short time, right? So one only experience the sufferings of hell, for example, like the durations of bouncing, like a ball bouncing back. So, or through headache, or through some small sicknesses and etc. So, if we purify those heavy negativities that were supposed to be experienced, the result that which results is supposed to be experienced in the hell, then if we only go through some small sickness, headache or experience the result only for a very short duration of time, then it's something worthy of joy. And because through this small experience, such as sickness, headache, and so forth, that heavy negativities or that great negativities is purified. So, and in this context, it is related to anger. So we talk about anger creates heavy negativities, and through which one experience suffering results, unbearable suffering results, and so forth. So before anger arises, when these mental unhappiness arises, then we should be very careful with it, and then we should have this patience of. Then we should willingly accept that small mental unhappiness. So if we do not, and that willingly accepting small mental unhappiness, so that small mental unhappiness is still a small suffering. It is still a suffering, right? It's a smaller suffering. So we need to have this. We need to be willingly. So we need to willingly accept those small suffering, which is mental unhappiness, before it give rise to a great. Before it give rise to great suffering that will caused by the anger. So we have learned that mental unhappiness gives rise to anger, and then anger destroys our roots of virtue and cause great suffering and so forth. So therefore, in order not to destroy our roots of virtue, in order to secure our roots of virtue, therefore we willingly accept those small suffering, which is mental unhappiness. And then it's just like when you see there is a small fire, then you quickly put it off. Then even though that actions of putting off that small fire it requires some energy out of you, then which you consider it makes you feel a little bit tired, and that feeling a little bit tired is a small suffering. However, by willingly accepting this small suffering, then you prevent the forest fire. So similar to this concept.
다디 올 마디네야. 다디 올라. 저한테도 이거 되더라고. 등원도 좀 되시나. 마디 그러니 내가 다도 그거 뭐니나. 진짜 니이 그게 좀 좋아지게 좀 하셔서. 이쪽으로 지도와 어떤 디시션이
And next outline is meaning. So just now was analogy, now is meaning. And under this outline, there is an opinion. I cannot endure just this suffering of the present. And in relation to this opinion, the response is in verse 73. It says, if I cannot endure even just this suffering of the present, then why do I not refrain from getting angry, the cause of suffering in hell?
다디게 들어간다. 제공 등아 중다. 세 중에서 있는 것이 이따디 등안 비상 앞에 다그 좀 봐. 와 강의 쉬고 봐 이나. 다 진짜 들어서 상황 타오데. 다 냐이 등아 세워 됐다. 오늘 전에 사자가 등아도 세라면 우리 와. 우리 순간 다 된디 된다 등아 충치 들어 세트 그러면 다 나이 등아 세라면 받대 마요하게 그 졸아서 오래서 뭐 한다와. 등이 좀 마요하게 저도 도그레스 와 이 저대 가르도고스나 다 공조죠 이모대와 대도에 이모대와 대도고스 다 이모대와 대파도바이나 그 공조대 뭐요 다저 공조대 도와 다 내이 등이 간다 zelame 바이와다 공조대라 되는 레고로와 공조대와 다 공조대 도고야 가르스나 다 이모대와다 당부 이모대와 제 니고야 보시대 이모대와 지가라 대가라 소도야 제가 개치 당와서 두지고다 이모대와 대왕에 답에 본도 제바 맞지 라미서 라시 제바라서 어떻게 마모 용도 다 대배 주선에 모르 봐 어다서 소도 제가 개첨을 해서 그러와 다 견다 도도의 라시 지야의 공조 추첨을 제 3만 가서 이모대와 대왕 내고 와 이모대와 추첨을 내고 대배 다 가지고 가면 제고도 와 들리서다 다서라 간다 등이 차체문이나 교대 도그레스 된다 도도 들어와 등이 간비나 등이 되는 거 교대라 다 소소 체벌 해서 거다 좋아 나서 내려오지 메타 주주시 소소 수고가 산업에 나서 전문가로 당고도 다 들으면서 우리 다 냐이 메스는데 에 세고와 세레가와 뭐다 디시고도.
So the meaning of this verse is, if I cannot endure even just these sufferings of the present, such as hunger and thirst, and being slightly pierced by weapons, then why do I not make effort at refraining from getting angry, the cause of suffering in hell? And so we have learned that the experience of the cause of experience of suffering in hell is caused by anger, and anger is caused by mental unhappiness. Therefore, we should be careful with this mental unhappiness, and then we should get rid of this mental unhappiness. Otherwise, then this unhappiness can give rise to anger, and anger can lead to unbearable sufferings in hell. And even this anger can make one commit suicide and etc., engage in killing and so forth. Therefore, we should be very careful the cause of it, which is the mental unhappiness. So, so and it's just like if you're unable to bear the sufferings of hunger, thirst, pierced by weapon, or the wound caused by bullets or weapons and so forth, guns and so forth, then why do we not make effort at refraining from getting angry, which is the cause of suffering in hell? Next outline is regretting that however many bodies have been wasted in the past, neither my own welfare nor the welfare of others has been accomplished. Under this outline is 64, verse 74. It says, "For the sake of my desires, I experienced thousands of eons in hell, but I enacted the purpose of neither others nor myself." So the meaning of this verse is, for the sake of my desires of craving for erroneous objects in the past, I engaged in negative actions and experienced thousands of eons of suffering in hell, such as being burned. But I enacted the purpose of neither myself nor others even slightly. So for the sake of my desires of craving for erroneous objects, and yeah, so since beginningless time, then we have been circling in samsara, and then and in numberless lives, then we have been crave for erroneous objects such as those desirable objects, such as those resources, such as small happiness, and etc. Then for the sake of this small happiness and so forth, then we create heavy negative actions or great negative actions, and due to this, then we experience thousands of eons of suffering in hell, such as being burned. And because of this, then I did not enact the welfare of myself and the welfare of others. I have not enacted any. I have not enacted even the slightest the welfare of oneself and the welfare of others. And then my whole life has been wasted. So therefore, think think about that I have accumulated such negative karma in the past for the sake of small purpose, and then in these lives, then if I were to create create negativities for the sake of this small happiness again, isn't it isn't it my whole life will be wasted? Isn't it my whole life will be wasted? So therefore, one should generate regret that one have whatever negativities that one have that one have accumulated. So here it talks about one needs to generate regret over negativities, and then it is worthy of a regret. So it is worth to generate regret at those negativities. So it's just like even in our conventional world, if one were to create anything, if one were to do anything that breaks the country laws or rules, if one were to admit that one had done something wrong and then regret about it, then even in our conventional world, then the person was sentenced will be sentenced to a lighter punishment instead of the heavy one.
다디 올라디다 와서 야 세진이 받으와 니바데 간다 다디 끝이 세바 신이 또 도와다다 그때 누가라 가와리 가시기로와 다들라 인디네 대선 인디네 인디네 대선 메밀라 된지 아전 루주이 루이 니세 두네라 가왕 바신 데샤히 데샤리세 도와 데샤리세 데르도와
So if one admit one's own fault and regret about it, then one will receive a smaller punishment. And next outline is, it is appropriate to be joyful in accomplishing the welfare of all migrating beings by patiently undertaking hardships now. Under this outline is verse 75. It says, but now, since great purpose will be established from harm which is not as much, I should be solely joyful towards such suffering that dispels the harms of migrating beings.
현재 주요하게 치는 다 소속에 리신라 강에 첨비지 충분히 있나야 다 간다 데라 가고 좋아 당이 나라나 백깔리지 카바이나 당이 현재 니 mambu지라 간다 펜도 치두고도상 데디기 샤와지 렌도나 다 소속 깔레 카바 문화제바 반디 주바이나 다 데라 가고 깔리지바도 보이셔서 소속 가고 데려와 깔리지 보이셔서
So the meaning of this verse is, but now, since this hardship at the time of accomplishing others' welfare will establish great purpose, independence on harm, which is not as much, means that if I were to engage in any actions that will bring benefits to others or accomplish the welfare of others, even if I have to endure, even if I will experience some physical discomfort or mental hardships, then I should endure these hardships.
他定我是他连续进来自家的，给全部超过的。他知道我是他的我的买吧，他对他连续的开始呢，他让的跑马了说把他，我他摸不有的话，他说是那么一呢，利息他把些要把时间了，就是说，他给其实的超过的，那的可对的给全部的，他让的跑马的摸了是吧？他给我有的话，他给我的时候要了，说是刚有的话，是离了刚有的话。他就是要了，就是干了有的，干了有吧？伊呢，他就是根部就是给把同业的就是把事业的连带就主要了。他说这里你们记得你不是去了干了小米间的，说我那去看了就把伊呢我对说搞过来，当然女生我确实上到去，是吧？当然你讲的看到得到我是确实那地的话，我这些刚一生气。 동안 반면에 강에 체집에 가라 나도 솔로 박강에 세야 정말 왜 니즈기 들어와 그래서 최대 위다고 와 그게 강에 더 이분도 가라 강에 세트 봐 정말 다 되면은 위다고 쉬이 차고로 와 다들 개체제는 가서 파마세와다 뭐뭐서 또 개체무 차고요 다들 서면에 자주 쉬어야 돼 미세시 버려다 다들 숲에 취는 원래 취 넘바 다 차고요다 취 넘바 다 차고요 다들 숲에 샤시 쉬어야 그래서 갈래라 먼저 봐 갈래 카바 있는 거나 갈래 카는 비슷하나 고치에서 리지상을 땅도 봐이나 땅에 계좌라 첨부 사는 거리 갱고라 편 거리 스스로 계좌라 첨부 사는 거리 다들 그것도 주시고 돈이나 땅 아주 누가 승계 단지 다기 파마나 시스니 파마의 계정보 아마 많은 시스니 다 마의 계정보 주고 와 다 된디 순자 다 된디지 네베 정림보가 승계 단지가 되어 두고 된디지 산을 담아들 단다 또 랑게 다 네고라서 봐 갱고 그 네고 랑 칸바기 네고라서 봐 된디기 갱고다 다 파마다 뭐다 몰라서 봐 된디 너희 좀 뭐요 와 다 소라로 봐 지도 이나 당원이 죄는 못 다왔다 죄는 못 다왔 스스로 봐 제발 맞을 수 있으나 가고 나로 봐 지야지 라스 나로 세나사지 보가 라스 된디 제도 그걸 다 간다.
And then in the commentary, it says, I should be solely joyful by willingly accepting the sufferings of hardship that dispels all the harms of migrating beings. So even here, it talks about dispels all the harms of migrating beings, right? So that is, you can consider like that is the long term, and then without thinking about the long term first, then first thinking about the short term or short distance one, which is migrating, which is our parents, our father and mother, and our grandparents as well. So who stay near us, who is around us. So they are elderly. So then when you take care of them, or when you take care of them, when you offer your service to them, then it requires some hardships, right? And that hardships, even though there is some hardships in taking care of them, but your hardships, your small hardships, remove their great suffering, or accomplish their great purpose. So even though when you help them in removing their physical discomfort, for example, or accomplishing their purposes, then yourself, then you become sweaty, then you become tired, and etc. And however, your sweats and your tiredness and etc. all are worthy. So all are worthy, or serve the purpose of becoming sweaty, or becoming tired for their purpose. So because you yourself who offer your service or take care of them, then you accumulate roots of virtue. Then it's something worth rejoicing of, and also through your hardships, your small hardships, then it benefits others, such as your parents, such as your grandparents. So starting with whoever is near you, then you think about the long distance one, which is all sentient beings, all mother sentient beings, right? So here also indicates how important the role of mother is. Therefore, it also one should offer your service and take care of them, and and taking care of our taking care of elderly, such as our parents, such as our grandparents, itself is a dharma. Itself is a pure dharma. So when we talk about dharma, then we talk about want to eliminate the sufferings of all sentient beings, right? The suffering eliminates the unbearable sufferings of sentient beings. Then, therefore, here when we talk about taking care of our parents, taking care of our grandparents, itself is dharma. Itself is pure dharma. Next outline is, it is appropriate to wish to pray. It is appropriate to wish to praise others, since it is a cause for my happiness. And and under this outline, there are two verses, verse 76 and 77. It says, should others find joyous happiness by praising someone having excellent qualities, why mine do you not praise him too and be joyful? That joyous efforts of yours is a source of joy without misdeed, permitted by those having excellent qualities, and is also a supreme means for gathering others. So the meaning of the first verse is, so the meaning of these two verses, so it says, should other people find mental joyous happiness by praising my enemy? So the one who find mental joyous happiness is the one who praise others, and he praised my enemy. If he praised my enemy, saying you have excellent qualities, or even help my enemy, or even give gifts such as clothing and food to my enemy, then why my mind do you not happy? Do you not praise the enemy too and be joyful just like those people? Yeah. So because when others, the one who praise others by saying that you have excellent qualities, the one who praise also find mental happiness, and the person will be happy or will be joyful as well. So why my mind, you are not. Do not praise the enemy and be joyful about it, just like other people. So therefore, you should be joyful. You should be joyful about it as well, and then you should praise them and be joyful, just like other people. And also rejoice in them. So here it says, and it continues, hence this joyous happiness of yours toward others' excellent qualities is a source of future joy without misdeed. It is permitted and praised by the victors and their children, having excellent qualities, and is also a supreme means for gathering other disciples. So you're rejoicing in them, your joyous happiness of your joyous happiness in others' good qualities, your rejoicing in others' good qualities, and this good quality of rejoicing of yours, then it pleases Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and through pleasing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then it becomes a source of future joy. Itself is a source of future joy, and then it pleases Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then oneself, and through pleasing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, oneself will get blessing, and then oneself will become worthy of praise as well, and then one's negativities will be purified.
다들 지금 가서 개 전부 잡아야 가서 신지 통제도 상지 고바 토스는 가서 장주기 세 아빠 그제 시디 다 미지라 무슨 뜻이 막아 지라 메로 연대 로바 제바이나 지야부 제바이나 내가 막아 제바이나 내가 가서 답주고 자사로 와 다주보다 근데 지금 가서 통해 뭐 여러다
신지라 대 로바 치나
신지 지라 소소 뜻이 막아와 소소 막아서 지라 미현다기 그 지라 로바 제바이나 내가 가서 들라 공조다 마디와 차바이나 당연히 나지 장주기 세는 신지 통제 신지 더 상지 공부해야 돼 주의 쓰고로 다 되게 되게 내가 맞아 얘네 주소는 들이 너무 유효하다 그래서 무슨 plan 여러 와 아들들 무슨 노정지제 소소의 상호지 땅 제바이나 메디네 셈바지 리바이나 나상고 제도로 와 근데 지금 모두 상가 제시 좀 보시고나 근데 이제 소야도 소소소소 세안 소화이 되고 와 어디에 어디 따라야 뭐 야고 네 못해 두고 와
So, in our society, or someone, or even it happens to someone we know of in our society or around us, then when we see others person that we don't like or enemy, so if this enemy of mine receives some help from others, then we get angry, then we feel unhappy about it. Then we should also think about bodhicitta. So because we always say the prayers that for the sake of all sentient beings, I want to achieve the state of enlightenment, right? And these bodhicitta, we have to think about bodhicitta when this happen. So otherwise, about thinking about it, then we should apply antidotes to stop the anger from arising, to stop the mental unhappiness as well. So because Bodhisattva has already mentioned in the text that one shouldn't generate anger, or one shouldn't be unhappy about someone or our enemies receive help from others and so forth. Then we shouldn't get angry at them, and we shouldn't be unhappy about it, because Bodhisattva has advised us so. And then by remembering the advice of Bodhisattva Shantideva, then we apply antidotes.
당은 대샤에 비자원 그래서 지때문에 좀 누워도 그래서 좀 충분히 공기 중에 마사지 받았으니 때마다 더 이제 그래서 이제 매번 슈크를 좀 다른 데나 그런 사람 좀 저질러 서로 두고 가이 근데 두지 두바다 어떤 나기 우리가 만들어서 내가 그때 유튜브 때문에 딱 기대요 지다 또마로 되지 딱 같이 저가는 나도 좀 있어서 어떤 신지 세는지 수지 세는 데서는 세고 통면서 디바는 상지 좀 봐봐 해도 돼 보다 되지 되겠어 뭐 있어.
Yeah, so we conclude with dedication. We dedicate these roots of virtue to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teaching, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long, to enjoy excellent health, and may all their holy wishes and enlightened activities accomplished instantaneously and spread in all directions. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to our beloved teacher, Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May Rinpoche's holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously without any obstacle. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to world happiness, world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail throughout the world. May wars, they are getting, the wars are not getting any better. So may wars, conflicts, disaster, natural disaster, and disasters such as the plane crash in India. So many people pass away. So may such disaster, natural disaster, pandemic, and diseases be pacified immediately. We also dedicate these roots of virtue, especially to those victim of those plane crash in India. So may all their negativities be accumulated since beginningless time be pacified immediately and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment.
다소 진예사베게 와데 대난도와 군라 카베나 제바지 진로자 가마이 데메니 모리도 세제쇼 장주 센조를 보제 마제바나 지주지 제마냐마 메마야 오늘 콘도 배와쇼 담배 바위 지다 제바단 군도 모대한 대신대라 군계 제소 다모 제계와데다 단제라 뭐 동이 다와를 보제 바나지 규지 제바냐마 메마야 오늘 콘도 배와쇼 이기 다와를 보제 마제바나지 규지 제바냐마 메마야 오늘 콘도 배와쇼你接受的觉别了，直接是看见见原前那被莫定真个做了，的首先的流说，今天看的分的马六吧，看的就会上辈行动，看的做没定真个做了，说就是天天连着说，咱们听不见是。说罗山条也是给把这人家心里加油嘛，对吧？天天人把准备给来做，用手准备天天人把这写到准备经济别忘了，那样秘书准备国家就准备这拉玛是话的，本地马六就为国际部家一点那么就话一点了，记得真把这边我不喜欢现在一点吧，就是给说起那咱家在那里土地那么见都没点备养，就啥别种给上推荐别的有些说。我也情感的碰到对方马路中为的今日生活电子家属一下被身体不都挺有劲。